roster is starting to be formed, right? How close are we to a roster? Grant Ramey, what's your starting five? You got that figured out yet?
Well, Tennessee's still got 3 open roster spots, I believe, after Igor Milicic, the 6'10 Charlotte forward, committed Monday morning. They added Felix Okpara on what day was that? Thursday morning, I believe. That was their second one to go with Darlington Dubar, the Hofstra wing. So they've had 7 out the door with the 3 fifth-year seniors and the 4 guys in the portal. And they got 3 open spots left. And, now we're going to wait on Chaz Lanier for the next however many days we're going to wait on Chaz Lanier updates and see where that one goes and figure out what they're going to do with the other 2 spots, regardless of what happens with Chaz, and go from there.
And Rob, they got bigger in the post, though. I mean, they brought in a couple of big men here to talk. What are your thoughts on Igor and just what Tennessee is and Felix, what they've gotten done in the post here in the last week?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to like it. I mean, you lost a lot of length in Jonas, and a quality rim protector. You maybe got a little better in that department with Felix Paro. I mean, not nearly the offensive upside, or at least not. We haven't seen that yet, but I think maybe a twitchier athlete than Jonas. Maybe a little more physical down low, and then Milicic, a completely different player than Akpar, a guy that can step out, shot 38% from 3, but he's not not a pick and pop forward. Does not want to be known as a pick and pop forward. He led Charlotte in rebounding last year. He can get in there and bang it, but he does have some skill. So, I mean, I think you have to like what Tennessee did there. And I still think it will be tough to add another guy just because, I mean, you look at the minutes right now when you add Milicic, Okpara, JP Estrella, who you're high on. Cade Phillips played a little bit this year. But I think in a perfect world, Rick Barnes would like to add a little more size. I don't know, really how feasible that is to get a good quality guy out of the portal when you've got what looked to me like 4 quality bigs.
This feels like Igor's kind of the right, kind of a perfect type fit for Rick Barnes and his kind of makeup. Is that fair, Grant, or is that unfair? Rob, jump in here as well. It seems like just in quotes from him, and you talk to people about him, feels like that's a Rick Barnes kind of find, if you will.
I agree. The pedigree with his dad being the coach that he is, and as well known of a coach overseas as he is, and being a coach's kid and everything that comes with that. And then you just look at the size, 6'10", 224, and shooting at whatever he did, 47% from the field and 37% from the 3-point line. I mean, it was always going to be, it felt like Igor or Cade Tyson, and I didn't ever think they were going to get both of those. I don't think you really, I mean, you want good basketball players, but I think if you added both of those, it would have been a little bit more crowded. And Igor has a little bit of a size. I mean, obviously a pretty big size advantage at 6'10" over Cade Tyson at 6'7". So I think Tennessee always felt like all along they were going to get one of those guys. I think Igor Milicic is a great get because of that size, and he can step out and shoot it. And I think it's a good culture fit in terms of the coach's kid who's going to come in. You know what you're going to get from him, the work and all that stuff, and he's going to be a good fit.
I mean, I thought he was the ultimate Rick guy when I talked to him on the phone. Like, I mean, just says all the right things. He's a worker, put his head down, isn't about all the fluff, Called him and said, he goes, I'm an older guy, man. I'm not a big commitment guy. That's why he didn't announce his own commitment. Like he doesn't care about any of that. For both Rob and Grant, obviously Chaz Lanier's potentially the missing piece, right? I think we like this roster pretty good. He takes it up a whole nother level if he jumps in the boat. But those other 2 spots, probably developmental type guys. Because I mean, you can't, if you start adding too many pieces, then it stunts the development of guys like Cam Carr and people like that, right?
To me, it doesn't. Like I said, I mean, I think in a perfect world, or I think in Rick Barnes' perfect world, he'd like to add, somebody that could play 10 minutes a game at point guard. He'd like to add somebody that can play, 11, 12 minutes a game in the post or in foul trouble. But those, I mean, that's the port. I mean, those guys don't go into the portal. Guys don't go to the portal looking to play 12 minutes a game somewhere. They go into the portal looking to, play 28 minutes a game somewhere. So, I mean, maybe you can find that guy out there. I mean, maybe it's somebody that, you have a tie with or has played big minutes at a smaller school and now wants to see, wants to try life in a Power 5 program, is willing to take a smaller role to do that. But I just think that's tough. And, same thing in the backcourt when, who wants to come and, play behind an all-SEC point guard that's going to have the ball in his hands, 80% of the time he's on the floor.
All right, I got two basketball questions for you guys before we shift gears here a little bit. First of all, for Igor, how did he land at Charlotte? Is this a late bloomer guy? Is this a late grow guy? Is this a guy that was overseas nobody knew about? How did he get to Charlotte to begin with, and what kind of leads it? Austin, you can jump in here too because you've talked to him. Kind of got him to the point where he was now a, quote, Power 5 player. And two, what are the chances that this is a full roster that Rick Barnes has this winter, or is there a chance, because of what you were saying, Rob, that they just play a little bit shorthanded numbers-wise this fall?
Well, for Igor, for starter, I mean, he started out at Virginia, so I mean, he's got Power 5 experience, and just didn't play a lot there as a freshman. Wanted a bigger role, and I don't know this, and I shouldn't even mention. I don't know if COVID had anything to do with that at the time. I probably should have investigated that a little bit. But he started out in the ACC and just played half the year and bounced. I mean, wanted a bigger role, just wasn't for him. But Grant, I wouldn't be surprised to see him. I don't think there's panic to fill out those last 3 spots, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, I think best case scenario, if you can get Chaz Lanier, that's obviously a huge addition. And then with those last 2 spots, I think you go developmental. I think maybe even leave one open for the summer, because they've been a program that in the past has not been afraid to bring guys in the summer and those late additions to signing classes, and you never. It's not going to hurt you that much if you do have one open spot. So I think you're all in on Chaz Lanier. Obviously, they're already all in there. They're going to be all in on that until there's an answer there, and then some kind of developmental piece. Because the line you're trying to walk is you don't want to take minutes away from Cam Carr, because you don't want him in the portal a year from now if he's not playing next season. You don't want, and that's the same for other guys on this roster. Like you're trying to add to this team without taking away from the guys that you already have on your roster, in terms of like what AP was talking about, was stunting their growth and continuing to get those minutes, because you don't want to be a program that has to get 5-6 guys out of the portal every April and just do business that way. They still want to get prep guys in here like Cam Carr, sign them, develop them, keep them here for multiple seasons, and see what they turn into.
And that's another. No, I was just going to say another guy we didn't mention yet. Grant makes a great point about we all think that Rick would like to bring in, more backcourt help. Well, I mean, if he does, how many minutes is Bishop Boswell going to play next year? How much is, what's his developmental curve going to be like if you do bring in, a guy that, plays, he's capable of playing 25 minutes a game as opposed to just a backup. So, I mean, it's the bottom line is, I mean, I don't think Coach Barnes is probably not as worried about that as we are right now. He just wants to get better. But it's, I agree with Grant. You don't want to be, trying to find 5 or 6 guys every spring to bring in.
How realistic is Chaz Lanier in the NBA draft?
I would be surprised, just because, it's a 2-round draft and he's a North Florida kid. And you look at his numbers, he had huge numbers last season. He didn't do a ton his first 3 years in North Florida, which is something that, and it's all going to depend on how he tests and, all that how that process plays out and all that stuff. But it just feels like you don't, spots are so limited. It feels like it would be hard to imagine that he's a huge name in the draft, like maybe a 2nd rounder, maybe a mid to late 2nd rounder. I have no idea. That's just kind of my own guess, but it's just hard to imagine that he would make enough noise to stick in the NBA draft, opposed to, Tennessee can sell him on that Dalton Connect role of come in and get as many shots as you need to score as much as you can to be that guy for this offense. Not that there's another Dalton out there, but I mean, you could imagine what that could do to his draft stock in terms of look where Dalton was a year ago and look where he is entering this NBA draft. So I think that's what you're trying to sell to him, and hopefully, and if you're Tennessee, you're hoping he doesn't make too much noise in that process.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Obviously, everybody needs to settle in for the Chaz Lanier sweepstakes, because that one's not going to happen anytime soon.